Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. The Prime Minister tells prisoners with cell phones, talk done. Education remains high on government's agenda. And UDECOT to play an important role in this country's development. Thank you for joining us. Prime Minister the Honourable Kamla Persad-Bissessar has announced a crackdown on illegal cell phones in prisons. This as she announced plans to introduce technology to block cell phone signals at the nation's prisons.
Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar has signaled a new approach in the national fight against crime. Speaking at Gasborough Secondary School in the Tabaquite constituency, the Prime Minister noted that criminals from behind bars were coordinating criminal acts and murders. She noted that government was moving swiftly against this by introducing technology that will block cell phone signals emitting from the prison's compound.
Tonight, my sisters and brothers, as head of the National Security Council, I can tell you tonight that illegal cell phones in prisons are amongst one of the largest public safety risks facing us in our land today. As your Prime Minister, we will put them out of business to implement mobile phone signals. We call them jammers and grabblers. Age of technology. This technology can find phones and block calls, can receive text messages from unapproved numbers within our prisons. What do you think of that? And tonight I say, thanks to our new Minister of Justice, Christlyn Moore, jammers, grabbers, we will cut them off.
The Prime Minister added that crime has been reduced by 36% in the first quarter of this year.
I am advised that there has been a 36% reduction in serious crimes in the first 4 months of 2013. Compared to last year, first quarter, 2013, 36% reduction in serious crimes. In the first 4 months of 2012, I am advised, there were over 6,000 cases of serious crimes in our country. Guess what? Today, in this same time period for 2013, it has fallen to under 4,000 serious crimes. Still too many. From 6,000 last year, same time, we have been able to bring it down to 4,000. Thanks to the police, thanks to the soldiers, thanks to all those in defense of our people.
She assured her government was working to bring an end to crime, and soon the legislature enabling this would be laid in Parliament.
The time for talk is over, and that includes the time from talk from the criminals behind the bars. Talk done. Talk done, done talk. Thank you. And so, my government will work with you to pass the laws, to provide the tools to make you and your children safer. Tonight, I renew my promise to you. And I have to say, thank God, I do not have to depend on any support from Mr. Keith Rowley and his PNM to bring this to an end.
Prime Minister Persad-Bissessar also serves as a chair of the National Security Council. Kimberly Ram-Calawan, News 4.
Meanwhile, the delivery of education remains paramount to government. Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar gave the assurance as she outlined projects for the sector carded for completion this year.
Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar says government has allocated funds to provide an increase in national scholarships this year. Speaking at Gasborough Secondary School in the Tabaquite constituency, she underscored that education remained a priority for her administration.
We have provided 371 scholarships to young people this year, more than any other government in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. You know why? Because I believe that children are the future of our nation. And if we fail to give our children the resources, we would fail our entire nation. And so we are spending $124 million on textbooks for school children. We have a further $50 million being spent on, guess what? Transport for children to go to school. And so that is only part of delivery by action.
The Prime Minister says education was the only way out of poverty and the gateway for the future of the next generation.
We must make sure we educate everyone. And remember, you're not too old to get an education. For the young ones like you, that is your passport. That is your key out of crime, out of poverty, and to a better quality of life.
She says for the year 2013, construction of a number of schools is yet to follow, as they provide the necessary infrastructure for the education system.
In the last couple of years, we have built 29 early childhood centers. We have 50 more by the end of this year. We have built 15 primary schools. 9 are already under construction. We have 13 more to follow. We've completed several secondary schools. That's one aspect. Preschool, primary, and secondary.
Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
In other news, the Urban Development Company of Trinidad and Tobago, UDECOT, will play an important role in the development of this country, but not without stringent measures to oversee its running. That is according to Housing Minister Dr. The Honorable Rudal Munilal, as he distributed the letters of appointment to members of the new companies, or to members, that should be, of the company's new board.
Dr. Munilal is reminding the new board members of the numerous responsibilities which will be placed on them given the importance of UDECOT. The new board comprises returning Chairman Jerlene John, returning Deputy Chairman Glenn Parmasar, returning Director Shankar Badesi, along with Dr. Stephen Pilgrim, Anil Brijlal, Mr. Prem Samadi, Mr. Ayegoro Ome, Mr. Rennie Mohammed, and Mr. Marlon Morris. The Housing Minister says the company has a critical role not only in the health sector, but also in facilitating the development of national security.
Today, the UDECOT drives two major areas: our health sector, infrastructure development. Given the importance to our government of the development of the health sector, linked as it is as well to health tourism, and also to managing the quality of healthcare in Trinidad and Tobago. The UDECOT is also the driver of the National Security Asset Development Program, which involves considerable amount of work in the area of the construction of police stations, fire stations, and assets for the Coast Guard and the Defense Force. The UDECOT also has responsibility for several other projects in the area of culture and sports.
Minister Munilal says he also expects UDECOT to play a vital role in the economic development of Port of Spain and San Fernando.
We expect to work closely with the Port of Spain East Development Company, the Housing Development Corporation, the San Fernando City Corporation, and the Ministry of Planning and Sustainable Development towards urban development projects in Port of Spain and San Fernando, particularly. When you add that to the quite ambitious objective of the relocation of the Port of Spain port and the development of a port city, we can see that UDECOT has a lot of work ahead.
He reveals that government has mandated UDECOT to conform to levels of accountability to avoid the sort of scandals which plagued the organization in the past.
UDECOT regularly accounts for their work at the Finance and General Purpose Committee of Cabinet and also at another subcommittee of Cabinet dealing with the construction sector. At UDECOT, permission to travel even is permission granted by line ministers. It is not a free-for-all where persons can travel, persons can do anything they want. We have regular update meetings with the Ministry of Finance, with the Attorney General's office, with other cabinet members who are interested in this area, particularly health and national security, so that UDECOT has really grown into a very mature and stable corporate entity. And we congratulate the UDECOT for this change that we have seen over the past 3 years or so.
UDECOT Chairman Jolene John says, thanks to a major overhaul of all systems and procedures implemented by the board, all of UDECOT's projects are now more transparent and subject to open policy tender. She says the company has fulfilled a mandate of 74 projects with a budget of just over $19 billion. Gregory McBurney, News 4.
When we come back, we'll tell you what's next on the agenda for the National Spatial Development Strategy. Stay with us. The National Spatial Development Strategy is in its final stage of drafting and will soon be presented to the Cabinet and then to the Parliament after the closing public consultations.
The National Spatial Development Strategy, which is being piloted by the Ministry of Planning and Sustainable Development, is part of a package of reform of the planning and development framework for the country. Based on the responses gathered at national consultations held earlier this year, a draft NSDS was developed, and recently the Ministry embarked on the first of 3 consultations, which seeks to bring persons in line with the direction of the document and gather further public feedback. At the Learning Resource Centre of the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine, Chairman of the National Planning Task Force, Dr. Asad Mohammed, says the document is a required component of national development in Trinidad and Tobago, despite varying views.
People find it a lot more comfortable to deal with plans and proposals for the area that they live in, very tangible things. But we need a national spatial development strategy because we need a strategic and policy framework that sets the basis for making the types of decision making to sort out the problems and conflict that we encounter in development. And that in the essence is what the National Spatial Development Strategy is about. It's about a known and agreed policy and strategic framework that we can use to guide the direction of development both in the state and in the private sectors and to resolve the problems as we encounter it.
For the public discussions and for easy interpretation, the presentation of the NSDS took the format of 4 sections. These were building places for people, reducing traffic, increasing respect for the environment, and achieving food security. Dr. Mohammed said 14 municipal plans were built upon and looked at as the strategy was meant to start from the ground up.
In addition to that, we did a comprehensive review of the development proposals of the government of the day, but all the sectoral policies and plans that we done by all the various agencies of government, which are not all done during this administration. Some of them go back to the previous administration because the technical merit of the plans are what are important, not who made them. Because we are signaling that planning is more important than the administration that does the plan. Good planning must survive administrations, must go between them. I think that is the theme that the minister has been talking about, and that is the agenda we've been working on.
There have been good turnouts at the consultations, and it is expected that the document will gain the support of the national community as a whole. Dr. Mohammed notes that the strategy will be applicable to all persons and sectors of society.
We've arrived here in a process of dialogue and consultation, and this, the first of 3 national consultations on the near completed process, is intended to solicit as much feedback as we can before we concretize this proposal. We've been very careful in this exercise to ensure that we have the other state agencies on board, because this is not a plan of the Ministry of Planning and Sustainable Development. This is a plan for the country, and it is supposed to bind not just the private individuals out there to guide their decisions, but also the state agencies. So the function of the Ministry of Planning and this plan is to provide a policy framework to guide all development.
Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
The Tobago House of Assembly is taking occupational health and safety seriously. The OSH unit of the Assembly hosted the National OSH Week in Tobago.
The National Safety and Health Week 2013 officially launched in Tobago on Wednesday, just 2 days after World Day for Safety and Health at Work was observed. The theme of this year's Safety and Health Week is the prevention of occupational diseases and focuses not only on the proactive approach to addressing occupational diseases, but also heightens the importance of occupational health, which has been traditionally overshadowed by an emphasis on safety. The International Labour Organization released figures that show an estimated 2.3 million deaths as a result of work-related accidents and diseases each year. Of this figure, 2.02 million deaths are as a result of a wide range of work-related diseases. There was a great turnout at the Magdalena Grand Beach Resort as stakeholders participated in the National Symposium on Occupational Disease, Awareness and Prevention, which kicked off the observances. The week of activities was planned by the Occupational Safety and Health Department of the Tobago House of Assembly in collaboration with the Occupational Safety and Health Authority.
Recognizing the importance of safety in the workplace, the Executive Council of the Tobago House of Assembly created an Occupational Safety and Health Department. This department is located in the Office of the Chief Secretary, where it attains the attention of the most senior executives in the Tobago House of Assembly. Moreover, the Occupational Safety and Health Department is mandated to ensure that the entire Assembly complies with the occupational safety and health standards. As a consequence of this mandate, the complement of staff for the Occupational Safety and Health Department is being increased in support of this initiative.
All these efforts are geared toward promoting a culture of national health and safety at the workplace.
Organizations must be successful in creating safe working conditions for their workers. Let us remember that the environment we create in our organizations today impact the futures of our employees tomorrow.
The skills and competencies acquired during the week of celebrations are expected to bring long-term benefits to Trinidad and Tobago and increase a sense of awareness at the workplace. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Sport is up next. Stay with us. Monday night was a decisive one in the TT Pro League, with a new champion being crowned despite a heavy loss. Wayne Cunningham has the details from the league's penultimate round of matches.
The men of the Defence Force were hammered 4-0 by W Connection on match day 6 of the third round in the TT Pro League on Monday. The military men were hoping to clinch the title on the day, but the Savanetta boys were not going to make it easy. It was a second-half goal fest for W, with Neil Benjamin Jr. scoring a hat-trick and Alvin Jones adding a fourth to keep their team in third place on goal difference. Despite the loss, Ross Russell's men did manage to secure their second title in 3 years because their nearest rivals on the standings, Caledonia AIA, lost to Central FC. The Mova Lavantil squad continues to show in different form ahead of a crucial CONCACAF Champions League qualifier later this month in Jamaica versus Portsmouth, as they went down to a Rodell Winchester brace, which kept them in second, but with no chance of catching the Defence Force with one match day remaining. Jamal Gay got a lone item for the team coached by Jerry Moore. Northeast Stars on 35 points, the same as W Connection, but have an inferior goal difference, hence their fourth place. They had a good night in front of goal, putting 5 past TNTech, which left the Electricity boys rooted to the foot of the table after a season plagued with problems in the boardroom. Elijah Manners, Jean-Luc Rochford, Marcus Gomez, Mika Lewis, and Kareem Moses were the scorers for Angus Eve and his staff. Both Police and St. Anne's Rangers showed promise during the season with new head coaches Richard Hood and Dean Pacheco respectively, but they will have to continue to build as they are set to finish the season in 6 and 7 places. They played to a 1-1 draw on Monday, with Todd Ryan scoring for Police in the 62nd minute. This was cancelled out by a 71st minute Ryan O'Neill strike. The final round of matches will be on Friday at the Marvin Lee and Atto Boldon stadiums. Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
When we come back, boosting the quality of education in Trinidad and Tobago. Stay with us. Two agencies under the Ministry of Tertiary Education and Skills Training recently held international conferences that will assist in boosting the quality of education in Trinidad and Tobago. Both conferences concluded with a joint dinner.
The Accreditation Council of Trinidad and Tobago, in collaboration with the Metal Industries Company Limited, recently hosted the closing ceremony and dinner for ACTT's first International Conference 2013 and the International Vocational Education and Training Association's Regional Conference. The conferences brought together over 500 international higher education and technical and vocational training professionals who shared their expertise, experiences, and research in transforming the education sector into one that is globally competitive. Practitioners in higher education, technical and vocational training professionals, and other key stakeholders from the local, regional, and international communities presented academic papers, shared best practices, and reviewed recent developments in education. The ACTT Conference on Quality Assurance in Higher Education took place at the National Academy for the Performing Arts, Port of Spain, from April 30th to May 3rd. Chairman of the Accreditation Council, Dr. Michael Dowlatt, noted an important outcome of the conference.
The two memoranda of understanding that were signed with CAEL and UK NARIC were the first steps in strengthening our international networking to ensure that ACTT, as we look to a new future in higher education, that we too are better prepared for that future.
The Accreditation Council recently expanded its operations by opening a new office in San Fernando with greater visibility, accessibility, and increased efficiency to serve clients and meet the needs of all stakeholders. Meanwhile, the MIC hosted the Ivators Regional Conference from May 1st to 3rd at the Hyatt Regency Trinidad, the theme of which was Education for Workforce Development, a Caribbean and Latin American perspective. Addressing those in attendance, Minister of Tertiary Education and Skills Training, the Honorable Fazal Karim, called for the institutions to host other international conferences during the next 2 years. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barreto. Thank you for joining us.